And Bob, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Welcome, everybody. We're about to start the September 1st Zoning Board of Appeals meeting for Henrietta. My name is Bob Peckham. I'm the chairman. We got a few things we always do first. We'll start out by saying a pledge of allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Next, we will start out by asking for a motion to approve the minutes from August.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the minutes from the August 4th, 2021 Zoning Board of Appeals meeting as presented.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Seconded by John. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed and one abstain. That's me.
And Mr. Chairman, you forgot to do the roll call.
Oh, I'm glad you said this. We also need to do a roll call. So Beth Mossworth.
Here.
John Miglerini.
Here.
Christian Chamberlain.
Here,
Heather Robinson.
Here.
Jesse Redlow.
Here.
And Tim Harrington.
Present.
And Robert Peckham is also present. Thank you for the reminder. I do appreciate it. With that, we'll start out on our first application, which is 2021-078, which is Ninja Gut, 2973 West Henrietta Road. Welcome. Please start out by stating your name and your address for the record.
Tommy Marciano, 2973 West Henrietta Road.
Thank you, Mr. Marciano. Did you start?
So the sign that you want to put up there, is that the size that you actually need, or could we shrink it down at all?
If you shrink it, it's not visible really from this. If you shrink it any smaller, it won't be visible. 4 feet's like a minimum for a pole sign in height, as in regards to the height of it. Any smaller is just not really visual from the street.
Would you consider putting another pole on that property for a sign?
That's also a whole nother, for starters, I remember you guys were telling me before that you can only be allowed 1 pole sign per building. So there's only 1 sign there. And then if you put another pole sign there, you would only see 1 from one side, then 1 from the other side, because 1 would block the other one off.
We can put it in a different location.
Forward of the other one.
Yeah.
Can you go above this one?
Can't, because you got to go on the existing pole. It's still, if I go right below it where it is now, I believe it's 7'3".
It is.
7'3".
7'3", which I feel is more than adequate height. It's not even right on, on the sidewalk. It's in from the sidewalk, like 6 feet or so.
It's definitely back from the sidewalk. I was out there today, as I mentioned to some of the group here. I was sitting on my motorcycle out there today and looking across. When trucks would come by, if I was back a little bit, now not right at the road, if I was back a little bit, I couldn't see them eye to eye because of the way I was sitting at about 6 feet tall and looking through that. So I am questioning it with regards to safety, although it is back, that's a benefit for this discussion. That is where I see the only concern here. And I really do want to understand if there's a way to bring that up. Is it possible to put Ninja Gut next to the logo? I'm going to say the gut.
Next to,
The Ninja.
I'm sorry, say that one more time for me?
Right now, the Ninja Gut, the actual logo.
No, so that picture is actually inaccurate. The Ninja Gut is going to the left of the lettering.
Oh,
Can
okay.
the word Ninja Gut stack or something and make it slightly wider or
It's-
take off 6 inches or something like that of the whole total height of the sign if you change the orientation of the logo versus the words?
No matter how you orient it, 4 feet is, we're putting the character to the left of the lettering. But no matter how you orient it, anything smaller than 4 feet kind of defeats the entire purpose of spending $5,000 to put a sign there.
Yep.
So you say he's going to go to the left. Is it going to be the same size as in the picture that you've presented to
The
us?
sign itself is the same size, just what's in it will change layout wise.
So the The gut, what does the M&M, I don't know, what you just to get called.
It's just the gut. The gut's gonna go to the left of the lettering.
So it's gonna go to the left of the lettering. The lettering is gonna be the same size as it is in the rendering? Is that correct, or is it gonna be
No,
larger?
the lettering will be larger.
The lettering will be larger, okay, because I was gonna ask why there was so much space on either side of the,
To be
of the
honest,
name.
we're still playing with it. I'm trying to figure out the best way to go about it, but either way, no matter which way I orient what's inside of the dimensions, I'm trying to keep the dimensions 4 feet tall by the same width as hers.
Okay,
So that it matches the dimensions of the tile creation sign or above it,
Correct.
right?
Exactly.
Right.
So you have
Yeah.
Skylight Signs doing this for you. Have they given you different options of different sizes and?
Well, we want it to be the same size as hers. Even hers isn't a big sign. You know, most people's signs that are up there like this are much larger. Me being only 4 foot tall is already very small for a street sign on a pole.
So really,
You
it's not the size of the sign. The question is the height from the.
Right,
ground.
but the height of the sign, because you can't go,
Right.
if you go any shorter, it's just so small. 4 feet tall of a sign is already small.
No, I don't think it's the height from the
Right,
ground.
but I'm saying if you shrunk it to 3 foot,
Right.
then you have no sign. You have not, either, it's not really doing what it's supposed to do.
And this is being put on by sandwiching the pole effectively.
Mhm.
Correct. So there'd be a sign on each side. Whatever they do to make it work, but if you made the sign any shorter, which would then increase your height underneath it, it defeats the whole purpose of putting a sign there, which I feel is highly necessary. If you've ever went from West Henrietta Road coming down from Brighton Henrietta Town Line Road, you can't even see my front of my building from the corner at all.
And there's already a lot of competing signage. This might be a dumb question, but could you extend the pole itself higher
No,
and then
we
put yours
can't.
above tile creations so
We
you
can't-
win?
No, I'm sorry, we can't extend the pole up and you can't put it on top of hers either. There's no way to put it above.
Unless you put in a whole new pole, which
A
would be
whole new
another.
pole, which is
entity.
unfeasible for me right now.
I am opposed to the height of it, to the height from the ground, not the 4 feet. I don't care that it's 4 feet. I'm opposed to the height from the ground personally.
What's the problem with it being 7'3" from the ground? Is that,
For me, everything that's safety, as I mentioned, I was sitting there on my motorcycle today, paying attention to
Mhm.
hundreds of cars going by there,
Mhm.
probably literally in 10 minutes, there's hundreds of cars.
Yeah.
And the congestion was solid. And I do agree that it's a little bit farther back from the road, but to me, the problem is the height of that sign from the ground. Not the size of the sign itself. I'm not opposed to that size.
right?
I'm opposed to that location up and down. So to me, that's not something that I'm comfortable with, and it is something that I take a lot of attention to.
Mhm.
And that 9 feet is there. It makes a lot of sense. I waited for trucks to go by, big trucks, and that's where I had the problem. Not with cars, not with pickup trucks, no problem with those at all. It was the big trucks.
Mhm.
And that's where I had a problem with it.
But Bob, was that with you being in the parking lot or was
I
that
was in the
with,
parking lot, not right at the road.
okay, so you weren't exiting the road where you would
I
need
was
to
not
have.
that far.
Were you like in here?
No, I was way too close. to it.
So you're up there. Okay. We're over here.
This is a commercial district.
So I do agree it's not right at the road, but that was my thing. I don't, if someone's sort of riding out, driving out, doing something like that.
I
I
think
don't know.
without it, it can be cause more of a hazard because I feel like I'm going to have a lot of business.
I hope you do. I
I'm-
mean that.
People won't know.
That as well, but I'm partnered up with like Esporta, a couple other companies as well that we're gonna be getting a lot of traffic and then people trying to come in, trying to find me. You can't see me until you're passing the street. I feel like people are gonna slam on their brakes to try and make that right turn after they see me. And I feel like it not being there is gonna cause more of an issue than if it was there. It
I
being there,
repeat, I'm not opposed to it being there. My problem is the height off the ground.
I know, and I
Which
have
is the
I
variance
have
you're
nothing else I can
Well,
do
there is
about it.
other options, but it's not ones that you like.
And
This is
I'm-
I'm one of 7 to decide this, so that's.
I have I couldn't afford to put a new pole sign in right now.
Sure.
Even the $5,000 for that sign alone is already stretching me right now.
Of course.
Has there been any other offers about, okay, so the sign has the foot 3 inch by 4 foot sign you want is $5,000 for both sides. Have you talked to the sign person about if a smaller sign, say if it was, because you want to move your logo, your mascot, whatever you call them, to the left. And I'm assuming then you want to take Ninja Gut and you want to put it either like Ninja Gut, like on one name until the other, or you want to have it to the left. I don't see where there's enough empty space on the sign. I don't see where you can just move your the Ninja over and then put Ninja Gut next to him, and you would save about at least a foot on the bottom. And it wouldn't look just that I mean, and you could, where you would even make make your Ninja Gut larger if you just have Ninja and then Gut, so just one long word, but I still think that you can make it, you can still maximize the space on the sign and make it at least a foot, like 3 feet instead of 4 feet. And I still think you wouldn't lose anything as far as the visibility of the sign. And I don't know if the sign person would be able to quote you a lesser price for the sign if it's, only 3 feet instead of 4. I mean, there may be a cost savings for you as well. Because right now you have a lot of empty space on that sign. And if you're going to be spending $5,000, I would try to maximize that space.
But he did say they're redesigning the layout. He's
Well, that too, if you're going to redesign it, I mean, then we don't have an accurate picture of what you want to put there. So we would we're left to not, it might just be a blank sign. We just don't know what we're going to have on there. So I still feel that if you really want that space, we need to say that, hey, there's not going to be this empty space that, well, a lot of empty, unusable area around it on the sides of the sign.
I mean, can we meet in the middle and maybe say, would 8 foot be good enough? If I shrink
Yeah.
it by 7 inches?
For me, I say yes.
I would say 8 feet is minimum, I think, because that's still a foot less than what we want, but I mean, I think 8 feet would be definitely preferable.
To me, that would be about the difference of what I experienced today, where it would be successful, okay versus not okay.
But Bob, I want to play devil's advocate. There's a picture in the application that shows from the opposing intersection looking towards the existing tile creation sign.
Yes.
And when I look at that from the perspective of what I assume is seated in a vehicle, I can see everything that I need to see with plenty of space for a 4-foot sign to be added there and still be able to see someone at that intersection, right? So it's different to be parked and
Yes.
be a blocked view than to be exiting or
But you're-
entering.
The purpose of that picture was so that way you can see that from right there, you can't see my business at all.
Right.
And I'm not concerned about the cars that are, from my point of view, I'm not concerned about the cars that are on either, I'm not sure if he's at the corner of Brighton Hunter Town Road or in Delta Sonic, but
I'm at the corner.
to me, the traffic that I was watching that's nerve wracking is the ones coming from farther down Henrietta Road,
Right.
straight down.
Right.
When I was sitting there doing that, that's something that was a concern to me. So
But-
I'm 1 vote of 7.
Understood, but just to talk the whole thing through is you were parked in the parking lot, not exiting from that street, which is what?
Which is
Forest
I was only a
Flat
couple
Flat-
feet back into the parking lot. I was about a car length back into the parking lot.
So, Mr. Marciano, I appreciate what you shared with respect to, and I agree with you, much less than 4 feet, it's not going to be seen when you're talking about people driving 40 miles an hour coming down this road. I also, while I respect what's being said, it might be difficult with a lot of trucks coming through. This is a zoned commercial B1 area. The bulk of the traffic is not going to be 18-wheelers. So I don't see that being an issue on a frequent basis. I agree with your assessment that people my biggest reason for wanting to approve your request is wayfinding. Because I agree with you that if people are trying to seek out that business, when I drove this, I agree, I could not see your storefront when I drove by. So if I was trying to, I would be tempted to slam my brakes, and that would be very dangerous in that spot of West Henrietta Road. So I see where you're coming from logically on this, and I'm 100% in favor.
Thank you.
Perfect. Do we want to take a quick straw poll, or do we, Jesse, you're up? No?
I'm good.
You guys?
I'm good with the 8 foot.
I'm good with 8 foot as well, but anything below 8 foot, I think we should, I think you would need to justify why he needs the extra space.
We have 4 for 8 foot. And 3 for, okay. So we're gonna table this, which means I'll have you have a seat. At the end, we're gonna sit down and discuss a little deeper on how we proceed with this.
Okay.
So if you would have a seat, we'll close this application for now.
If you'd be under, you'd be down right now.
Let's open up 2021-079 Richard Davenport, which is 6 Notre Dame Drive. Please state your name and address for the record.
Richard Davenport, 6 Notre Dame Drive.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Mr. Davenport, you already have it in place, the new shed, one's a little bit, I think it's a little bit larger than the old one that was there.
Yeah, it was, and this is totally in my making. I was unaware I had to have a permit to replace an existing permitted shed, and I was improving the shed, and I didn't know there was a size limit that size, so.
Okay, and how long has the new shed been there? It's
It was delivered and installed in November, I think.
November, okay, so last year, okay. And yeah, I know it's just 15 square feet larger than what is allowed, and I know that you mentioned that it was pre-built, so just was put on property without.
Correct.
It was
It
okay,
was
yeah.
pre-built. I bought what was available on the lot. That was the smallest one they had on the lot available at the time.
Okay, all right. Do you have any electricity running to it, or?
I have no electricity going to it. It's just a storage shed for my lawn equipment and garden stuff.
Lawn equipment, garden stuff. Okay, good. Okay. I have no other questions. I think it's just, it's reasonable. I think that, that was just the way the sheds go these days, that they're a little bit bigger than they used to be. So that's,
Yeah, I used to give myself a concussion getting into the metal one because the door was only this high.
yeah, I had one like that when I was a kid too. It was way lower.
Mhm.
No more questions.
Anybody have questions on the board?
I'm not.
All right, with that, we can close the application. Christian?
Okay, let me find my.
Yep.
I'm gonna find my form I filled out already. Where'd it go? So we're still trying to learn these new tablets here. It's only the second meeting we've actually had them.
Good luck with them.
Here it is, okay. All right. Mr. Chairman, with regards to application ZBA 2021-079 for an area variance, I move to approve as follows. Whereas the zoning board has 1, duly advertised and held a public hearing, 2, has advertised all relevant information, and 3, has considered the potential benefit to the applicant versus the potential detriment to the neighborhood or community in relation to such variances. Now therefore be it resolved that the zoning board of appeals makes the following findings of fact. The variance will not result in an undesirable change to the character of the neighborhood or a detriment to nearby properties. The new shed is in the same location as the old shed that had been taken down or has been taken down. The variance cannot be achieved by some other feasible alternative. The applicant desires a storage space that was available to them with the old shed that used to be in the same spot on the property. The variance requested is not substantial. The applicant is requesting 15 square feet above what is allowed by town code. The variance will not have a negative effect on physical or environmental conditions. The size of the shed is consistent with other sheds located in the neighborhood. And the difficulty relating to the variance was self-created. The applicant desires storage for outside items and equipment. And be it further resolved that based upon the above findings, the zoning board of appeal hereby approves the variance as presented.
I'll second.
Seconded by Heather. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The motion carries. Thank you.
Enjoy.
Thank you.
Now we'll hear 2021-080 by Katrina Aubrey at 330 or 3351 Winton Road South.
Hi, Katrina Aubrey, 3351 Winton Road South.
Thank you. Welcome.
Do you have anything to add to your application?
No,
So given the size of not only I saw the fifth wheel trailer, but the enclosed utility trailer and the fact that it goes up a hill
yeah,
and around a garage.
yeah.
Good for mirrors and the ability to do that. The width of that, I looked and I saw that it was parked right at the edge of where you have gravel now. And that gravel that you have now, is that the entire length that you and width that you need?
Yeah, yep.
Okay. by adding that width to the top and then along the side of the garage, given the condenser that you have there for the AC unit, that gives you enough space to swing out and still park.
Yep.
Okay. I see that, at least from, well, it's Pinnacle before it hits South Winton. You had removed some shrubs, but you had mentioned that you were planning on adding some.
Yeah,
back
yep.
in. Okay. Any plans for fencing or just the shrubs?
Kind of a little bit of both. I was gonna put more of a garden in because I just finished the front side, so I was gonna add another garden to that side, hide it a little bit. Make it pretty.
And not really a lot of space on the other side of your house if someone was like, we'll park it on the other side.
I tried, it doesn't fit.
I
Yeah,
noticed it was
trust
kinda
me.
narrow. It's a little- Yeah.
You guys did do a good job on that, making it look good. I
Oh,
mean,
thank you so
someone-
much.
Yeah.
Yeah, took a lot of time and effort.
Always does. Any other questions from members of the board? No? All right, we can close the application. Oh, sorry. Any questions or concerns from members of the audience?
Actually, I do have one question. Do you know the final width of your driveway, the existing blacktop plus the additional stone?
I think that was in the drawing.
Might be 44.5.
I agree, Tim. I think it's 44.5 at the widest.
Yeah.
The drawing says that that door is 24.5 or that wall.
Well, that's the width of the front of the house. Without the wood patio there, it's a little less.
Well-
Yeah, it's gonna be a little less. You're correct. I apologize.
Well,
No, I think it's actually more than that.
hang on, I think it's more because it's 24.5 and then there's 8.2 feet on that OP, whatever that is.
Mr. Chairman, it's about 46
40.
feet
Oh,
46?
from the, looks like there's a wood planter there. Is that still in the driveway? A wood planter by the garage?
No, I removed that.
Okay, so if I just take the overall width of the existing driveway, it's about 46 total width.
Thank you.
46, okay.
Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, any other questions from anybody in the audience? Okay, with that, we'll close this application. Thank you.
And there's nothing online, Bob.
Thank you, Heather.
Mr. Chairman, in regards to application 2021-080 for an area variance, I move to approve as follows. Whereas the zoning board has, one, duly advertised and held a public hearing, two, has considered all relevant information, and three, has considered the potential benefit to the applicant versus the potential detriment to the neighborhood or community in relation to such variances. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the zoning board of appeals makes the following findings of fact. The variance will not result in an undesirable change to the character of the neighborhood or detriment to nearby properties. Adding the extension will keep the property within the character of the neighborhood by having a paved area for travel trailer and closed utility trailer to park on. Variance cannot be achieved by some other feasible alternative, does not fit on the other side of the house. The variance is not substantial. The width is needed for the size width of the travel trailer and existing home. AC condenser unit placed on that side of the home. The variance will not have a negative effect on the physical or environmental conditions. The difficulty related to the variance was self-created. And be it further resolved that based upon the above findings, the zoning board of appeals hereby approve the variance as presented.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Redlow. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Have a nice day.
Have a good night.
All right. Now we're gonna do 2021-080, Thomas Peacock. I hope I said that right. 1071 Farnsworth Road.
That was for 081, you said?
8-1.
Mr. Chairman? Or
081. What did I say?
I think you said 080.
I'm not surprised.
He's got new glasses. please.
081, and yeah, all sorts of great stuff. Welcome.
Thanks.
Please state your name and address for the
I'm
record.
the contractor. I'm not.
Oh, I
Yeah,
think you were
he's-
approved in the
Yeah.
81.
I'm sorry, what was your name?
The homeowners.
Michael Smith.
Michael Smith. Okay.
We received an updated letter of authorization just the other day. It should be in your electronic copies, guys.
You have it.
Should be for John
So could you
Saunders.
still state your name and address for the record, sir?
My house? Or the
Yes.
job?
Or your
Business.
business?
Your business.
I don't know. I don't know the address there.
Do you have a name?
Cam Enterprises.
Your name is Cam
No,
Enterprise?
I'm like Michael Smith.
Michael Smith, thank you,
Yeah.
Michael. Mr. Smith.
It's East River Road. I don't know
Smith,
the number.
Mr. Chairman,
I see it now.
the one, I see it here is for John Saunders.
Yeah, he's my boss.
I think that's
And Michael Smith is on there. He thought authorizes Michael Smith.
on the other one. Okay, I'm sorry. I just saw his name. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so now we're.
I
good.
got you. Okay.
Could you explain to us what you are doing?
Looks like we're making a deck in front of the house, front porch.
Yes, you're gonna be doing a 10 by 9 foot front deck. Are you guys gonna be tearing out the existing stairs or you're gonna be putting that
Going right
over?
over the top.
You're just putting it over top, okay. What is the deck gonna be made out of?
Pressure treated with trucks on top.
Frustrated
Could
truck.
you step forward, because we need to hear it for the record.
Pressure treated with trucks on top.
Okay,
And the existing is falling apart, is that the?
I don't know. We just drove past. There's already posts in the ground. So I don't know what's going on there.
It says it.
yeah, it says that they're failing in the application. Would you like to add anything else to the application?
I don't even know what it is.
Okay,
Have you done this before?
Nope. All I have is the estimate. I don't have anything else.
okay.
I mean, we see the size of it on the pictures. I don't think
Yeah.
there's anything specifically bad
Unfortunately.
about this.
Yeah, unfortunately, there's not much I can ask you since you're not relevant or
Aware.
aware, yeah,
I
thank you,
guess, I
aware
guess
of the
they're doing
application.
the exact same thing the neighbors had done.
Okay, so they're basically just going in line with what the neighbor had?
Yeah.
To your knowledge, okay.
Any other questions from members of the board?
Nope.
Any questions, concerns, or comments from members of the audience, in person or virtual?
Nothing online.
Thank you. I guess with that, we'll close this application.
Okay, Mr. Chairman. With regard to application number 2021-081 for area variance, I move to approve as follows. Whereas the zoning board has duly advertised and held a public hearing, has considered all relevant information, and has considered the potential benefit to the applicant versus the potential detriment to the neighborhood or community in relation to such variance. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the zoning board of appeals makes the following findings of facts. The variance will not result in undesirable change to the character of the neighborhood or detriment to nearby properties, as the new deck will enhance the curb appeal of the house. The variance cannot be achieved by some other feasible alternative. Having technical difficulties. I'm trying to type in there, but it won't let me. Just 1 second, bear with me, please. Okay. Okay, the variance cannot be achieved by some other feasible alternative. As the existing steps are failing. The variance requested is not substantial. The variance will not be a negative effect on physical or environmental conditions. The difficulty relating to the variance was not self-created, as the existing steps have been deteriorating over time, and the new deck will improve the safety. And be it further resolved that based upon the above findings, the zoning board of appeals hereby approve the variance as presented.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Redlow. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. We are going to do application 2021-082, which is for Mission Barbecue. Welcome. Please, as we say, state your name and address for the record.
Good evening, Kirk Wright, Sign and Lighting Services, 530 Route 104, Ontario, New York. I should have some individuals on the Zoom.
Heather, are there people available on the Zoom?
Yes, I have Andrew, Adam, and Diego.
Welcome.
What we're proposing is a second sign on the tower at the Mission Barbecue. If you're not familiar, this is the old Chili's location.
Yes.
We feel that the sign is going to help with traffic. Also, it's not going to have any adverse effect to the neighborhood due to the fact that there's a number of signs in the area. There's multiple variances, similar variances that have been granted for signage. We actually did a code search prior to them starting the project, and apparently the code changed somewhere along the lines. So that is not a self-created issue with the variance. We feel that due to the code changes is what's created this challenge. Other than that, we are under square footage.
On all of them combined.
Correct. That's allowed. We're just looking for the variance for the second sign.
Are you also going to have one on the, on the
Plaza sign?
plaza sign?
Yes.
That question came up today, and I believe there is.
Yeah, it's in the
Yeah,
paperwork.
Yeah, it's showing that you have one
okay.
in the package.
Yep.
Top left honors, in fact.
Yeah. Now I have a question about the sign that you presented. It shows that there's X marks and it says C note 3, which I unfortunately do not see C note 3. Are you removing the background to the Mission Barbecue sign? Yes.
There's X's on there.
Yeah, the
Oh,
one I'm seeing.
that's not what we see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Heather, do you have a different set of, I assume this is you sharing the screen, correct? You have that.
Yeah, I'm sharing with you guys the most recent that I have, but it should be exactly the same as what's in your packets.
I'm looking on the digital version. Maybe that's where the difference is.
This, it isn't the package. What she's showing is-
Yeah, but the digital one is different.
The X's were there earlier.
That's crazy.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, can you clarify if you guys are doing like the black background it shows with the Mission Barbecue with the star? Are you guys doing that?
Yes, that is
Oh, isn't this one here?
going to
Can you
be
go to
as
the next
drawn
one, page
that I'm
3?
looking at on the screen right now.
There we go.
And this one. This is the same, just not on the building. This one.
Correct.
So it is going to be the full 21 1/4 by 20 or 220 inches.
All right. Are there any other questions here from our board? Are there any questions or concerns from members of the audience, both here and virtual?
I don't have any online.
Okay. Quick question for the board. Is there any major concerns from anyone?
No.
No? Okay. All right. Should we close this then? Who is it, Heather?
This
Oh,
one.
Justin.
Jesse.
All right, I'll close this application. Mr. Redlow?
Okay, Mr. Chairman, with regard to application number 2021-082 for an area variance, I move to approve as follows. Whereas the zoning board has, 1, duly advertised and held a public hearing, 2, has considered all relevant information, and 3, has considered the potential benefit to the applicant versus the potential detriment to the neighborhood or community in relation to such variance. Now therefore, be it resolved that the zoning board of appeals makes the following findings of fact. The variance will not result in an undesirable change to the character of the neighborhood or a detriment to nearby properties, as the neighborhood is a commercialized area with many signs. The variance cannot be achieved by some other feasible alternative due to the pattern of the road. The variance requested is substantial but has been adequately justified by the applicant. The variance will not have a negative effect on physical or environmental conditions. The difficulty relating to the variance was self-created. And be it further resolved that based upon the above findings, the Zoning Board of Appeals hereby approves the variance as presented.
A second that.
Seconded by Ms. Mossworth. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
You
You
too.
too.
You too.
Have a good one, guys.
He's muted, but
I know.
we could read your lips. Application 2021-083 by Colin and Jennifer Moriarty, 580 Shore Drive. And I do believe they'd be online today because I don't see them.
You just saw him.
He
He was-
There he is.
Oh.
Hello.
Hello.
Could you please state your name and address for the record?
Colin Moriarty, 580 Shore Drive, West Henrietta, New York.
Thank you.
Jennifer Moriarty.
Thank you both. Welcome. I had the opportunity to talk to you yesterday, I believe, Colin, and some of the questions that came up from me were, please share with us what you're doing with this space, what you expect to be on this new addition to the driveway that you're requesting.
So we have a camper and a pontoon boat, and before I was planning on this, one of them was on the slope of a hill off of the side of the back of the driveway on the side of the garage. And what I'm trying to do is level out the front portion so the whole side of the driveway is the same height. Currently, it's kind of a wedge shape, and I'm just proposing to square off the front corner of it that's up near the front of the garage.
So you have, and you're also notified me that you're going to be putting in a berm.
Yes, there's going to be a berm in the front of it with, I'm trying to get right now, they're about to start digging, but they're 6 to 8 foot tall pine trees that I'm going to be putting on a berm in the front of it to make the camper and boat less visible from the road.
Mr. Moriarty, is the location of that berm going to be where the existing, what I'll call a pile of dirt is? Is that the spot?
Yes, yep. And then on top of that, I'm gonna put a landscape bed edge on it and use the decorative Ontario stone on top of that. So you don't see dirt, you'll see the pine trees with some decorative stone underneath it.
What would you say is the timeline of getting that installed?
The pine trees, they're about to start digging within the next week and a half. So as soon as the suppliers start digging trees, I'll be getting about 6 to 10 of them, depending on how much they fill the space. So I would say within the next 3 to 4 weeks at the max, but as soon as I can get the trees, I plan on doing it.
And then about the driveway, so the variance request here is just for this little wedge.
Correct.
No, what is the existing width of the driveway as it existed before the wedge of gravel?
So at the back, it's about 20 feet, and at the front, I want to say it was 12.
Okay, and so that's beyond code. And so as discussed earlier, that was pre-existing based on this drawing, 1995. So
Yeah.
what would the final width be with the addition of this wedge shaped gravel?
It would be 20.
It would be 20, okay. And that's right in front of the garage door? That's the width of 20?
Yes, and then it'll taper back to the original.
Mr. Moriarty, at the widest part of your driveway, ahead of the garage, closer to the street, what will be the widest part of your driveway approximately?
I'm not positive. I didn't measure that. In front of the garage. Give me 1 second. So that's 20.
Kevin, do you have a rough idea?
It would be about 35, and then it'll shrink down drastically back to about what the original was 32 feet. Based on the width of the garage on this plan is just shy of 20 feet, and then 12 feet of what the original was.
Thank you.
And I have a question also about the side setback. Is it going to be basically once you square it off perpendicular to the garage, once it gets within 5 feet of the property line, is it going to be cutting back in? So there's a 5-foot gap between the end of the driveway and your lot line?
So the original driveway that was there was past the 5-foot setback, but nothing that I'm going to be doing will be within the 5-foot setback.
Okay, so right now there's, what is it like? Is there any space between that and the lot line, or is it right up to it?
There is space between it, yes. There's space between the existing, which is on the map. There's, I want to say it's at least a foot, maybe 2 feet, but I'm not even going to be that close with the new. It's actually bringing it back in a little bit
So his new addition,
from what the map shows.
It's not
not
gonna,
within 5 feet. It's
so when it's,
farther.
so when it's done, there'll be 5 feet, or they'll be less than 5 feet?
All of this section that I'm adding will be less than, it will be greater than 5 feet away from the lot line. And the existing portion will be less than 5 feet, but less than what it originally was. Originally, it was right on the line.
What's pre-existing non-conforming was already there, so that's just, you're not going to be touching that part. Okay,
Yes.
right.
So let me ask this question. So ultimately, this is a significantly above code. Have you considered alternatives to where you could put these supplies and equipment and the rest of what's in your driveway, garages or somewhere else, so that you don't need this much width of driveway?
I am currently, so there, occasionally I've had some of my equipment for work in the driveway. I'm currently getting a spot for all of that to permanently be. Now, even without that stuff in the driveway, the boat and the trailer lengthwise stick out past where the current driveway is. So this is kind of to get them back behind the face of the garage and be able to keep them more hidden from the neighborhood.
Make it look nicer.
And in my opinion, it will definitely look better than having the camper stick out 10 feet past the front of the garage.
Are there any more questions from members of the board?
Nope. No.
Are there any questions? Oh, please. Wait, please, before you hand these out, please state your name and address for the record.
Martha S. Windrum, 570 Shore Drive.
Thank you. And whatever you're giving us, we cannot return to you.
One second, no one can hear you online. If you can grab the microphone off the table.
Hold on one moment, Heather. We'll have her hand these out and then we'll have her talk at the podium.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, and please speak into the microphone so we have it on the record. And you said your name one more time?
Martha Windrum, 570 Shore Drive. So I was not aware of the Moriarty's full plans because when Mr. Moriarty started digging up his front yard and I asked what was happening, he became angry at me and suggested it was none of my business. So I have proceeded from a distance. So I have just something I'd like to read here, if that's okay.
Please.
Shore Drive is zoned as an R115 residential neighborhood. Figure 1 is a Google map of Shore Drive together with a couple of ground views showing the neighborhood to be charming, quiet, and wooded. Families in the extended neighborhood enjoy walking, biking, and skating along Shore Drive. You see 580 is right there outlined in red on the map. It is the first place that you see when you enter Shore Drive coming down from Valley View. Figure 2 at the top shows the berm on the edge of and the road in front of my house. The lower left is looking from the road into my house. And then there are a couple other images there showing the general nature of the neighborhood. Figure 3 shows 2 views of 580 Shore Drive from the road. These commercial vehicles have been in the front yard of 580 all summer. At first, I thought they were being used for construction at the house itself. When I saw Mr. Moriarty digging up the front yard and elevating the driveway extension, however, I looked up his company, Siteworks Construction and Excavating LLC, and found that it is listed as located at his home. Currently, Mr. Moriarty and his workers drive these large commercial vehicles in and out of the driveway every day of the work week. I just added a photo from last night. I came home to see the dump truck parked on the lawn. When Mr. Moriarty came home, he spent a couple of hours rearranging the trucks. So there was a truck idling in his front yard for about an hour last night. Figure 4 shows a map. This is taken from just Google. The one on the left, it was the state of the yard in 2012. And it shows the original driveway, and he had the pontoon boat there. So for most of the summer, what he's had parked in his yard, it's been 1 pontoon boat, 1 RV, 1 commercial dump truck, 2 commercial trailers, frequently holding either a bulldozer or a backhoe, and 1 or 2 cars. Also in the little places that I've indicated, he has piles of construction material, much of which appears to be storage. So I'm requesting the board to take 2 actions. I believe that the parking of heavy commercial vehicles in an R115 neighborhood violates section 29512 of the town code. I believe these vehicles should be parked in a zoned commercial or industrial area and not in our neighborhood. 2, if the commercial vehicles are removed, there is no need to expand the already large driveway. I request that the extension that he has built be torn down and the yard returned and restored to some condition appropriate to a residential neighborhood of the character of Shore Drive. If you look at the maps in figure 4, if he paves all of that over, then essentially a third to a half of his front yard will be paved. And finally, the reason I am so upset about this is that I cannot retire without selling my house. And I think there is no chance that I can sell my house without a loss of tens of thousands of dollars if there is a large equipment parking lot immediately next door.
Thank you. Are there any other comments or questions from the audience? Heather, do you have any?
There's somebody getting out.
Oh, I apologize. I didn't.
There is no one online though, Bob.
There's more here in the audience. Please come up. State your name and address for the record, please.
I'm Jan Whitaker. I live at 560 Shore Drive, so I'm the neighbor. I'm Martha's neighbor, so I'm 2 doors down from the property in question. Excuse me. And looking at alternatives for him, I believe that first of all, there's a lot, his driveway, the main driveway is 55 feet long, approximately at least 24 feet wide. So there's adequate space there to park, for example, his RV or his pontoon boat, I'm going to say during the summer months. In the winter months, if he's already allowed 12 feet in width for his allowable extension, which goes along the 46 feet approximately length of his garage. So I'm saying that if he parked, I think he can park those 2 vehicles, one behind the other and tight up to the garage, because the wheels of, for example, the pontoon trailer is just the wheels that have to be on the, you know what I mean, say the gravel surface, the end of the pontoon trailer can actually extend further beyond what he needs to construct. So I think he can make other alternative arrangements. And I'd like to reiterate what Martha said, if the commercial flatbed trailers and things like that that are commonly parked in his regular parking area are removed, then he should have room to accommodate his RV and his pontoon trailer. Thank you.
Thank you for your input. Are there more questions or comments from the audience? Nope. Okay, I feel that this is one that we should definitely table.
Yes, I agree.
Sir, if you could, you'd have to come up to the microphone and speak, please. Thank you.
If there's any way we could wrap mine up, I got workers begging me to take them home right now. I'm sorry, they're blowing my phone up, begging me to take them home. I still got them at my restaurant.
We
working.
do,
That is the next step.
Yeah.
well, there's one more
There's more after
application.
this.
Oh, there is.
Yeah.
Oh, I apologize.
For the garage. Okay. So should we do that one next? Do you think? Is that out of line?
I think it's reasonable.
I do too. I understand the concern that your workers have. We do typically follow a protocol, and this one we are going to continue to follow, and I am sorry that it's inconvenient. We will make it as quick as we can. So we are going to table this, and we're going to have a discussion about it afterwards. Yours will be before that, sir. Oh, good point. The Moriarty's, could we have more, is there any more feedback or information that you would like to share based on the comments that you have heard from the members of the audience?
I would like to mention that the 2 that have spoken are the only people that have an issue with this. Every other neighbor has wished us luck on this hearing today and have no issue with it. Also, we've dumped a lot of money into that house. I renovated the entire thing, and we bought the house for about $100,000. And judging on how quickly the house directly next to the second lady who spoke, or 2 doors down from that, I'm sorry, just sold in about a week and a half for about 450,000, maybe even a little more than that. So I don't think that my house is really affecting Martha's property value as much as the state of her actual house that has not been maintained. And the two neighbors that have spoken with us do not particularly care for my wife or myself or our dog that we lost, and have had a vendetta out against us, much like they had against Mike Spawn. I don't think I really need to get into much more than that.
No, that's fair.
The second lady that spoke has a trailer in her front yard all year as well, not on the gravel. Just to note that.
Thank you.
Can we get copies of the picture or the images also?
Sure. No problem, but it's just your yard.
Okay, well,
hang on. We
we
can't.
may
have-
also bring on some harassment charges.
These are discussions that we have with the board. I want to keep this from going back and forth here. There are legitimate feelings from both sides of this that we weigh and take into account when we address the zoning variance. And this is something that we need to do here. So again, if it gets more personal, I'll absolutely stop this. But if it gets fact-based and information about the property, legitimate concerns that are had from both sides are things that we definitely want to hear, but I will not allow arguments.
Okay.
I do believe there's someone else who wants to speak. Is that accurate? Would you please state your name and address for the record, ma'am?
Jill Stark, 43 York Bay Trail.
Welcome.
I just want to state that these two ladies are not the only neighbors who are concerned about this. Some of the neighbors couldn't make it this evening, but I also have the same concerns that I think really need to be addressed here. And I think that the extension is being requested for his personal, our trailer and pontoon boat, so that he can park all those other commercial vehicles in the driveway. And I'm not sure that's the purpose for a residential area.
So thank you for that. Is there any other comments that you have on this?
No, that's fine.
Okay. Is there anyone else who would like to speak about this that is in the audience, either virtually or here? Ma'am, I'm curious. There's also another woman that I'm curious. Are you interested in speaking as well? Okay.
Just my house is my house is worth way more than his house. It's just a fact that, you look at Zestimate. And no family is going to buy a house next door to where a dump truck.
Understood. So your point is understood. We
Okay.
hear your component of that, and it is something that we will take into our consideration. There
But
are
I
things.
think in any case, that's just flat out illegal, isn't it? To run a large equipment business out of a residential neighborhood?
So
For you, Kevin. but-
there are things that can be addressed independent
Okay.
of the zoning variance. So this is part of the,
Okay.
I'll just sort of give a little bit of narrative here. And then I'm going to close this application. There are things that happen with the zoning variance, and there are things that happen with regards to the way that they're using the property. They are different. We will have to weigh into our decision if we feel that his application is intended to expand his, I'm going to call my words, his business present at the property versus his need to actually store his camper and boat. For me, I look at that very directly. The secondary components are something that can be brought up with the departments within the town. We need to look at that separately. If we apply that and allow him to have this variance for his boat and his camper, that is one thing. The town will take a peek at this. And clearly it's on record right now, and it's something that I assume Kevin or someone will take a look at.
And I believe code enforcement officer is already dealing with this, with the trailer and the truck. So.
Okay, so there is already some actions being taken.
Yes.
And, or at least addressed. Not everything is instantaneous, and that is something that we'll have to, time will play it out, and we hear your concerns. We hear their concerns as well. We will have a discussion about this in a moment. So I will close this application unless there's someone else that has anything to say. I'll close this application for now. We will open it. I'm sorry, we'll have discussion here and decide what to do in a moment. We have one more that we'll hear before we do that. So
Just hang tight.
hang tight. This is not over. We're not done tonight, but hang tight. The final one that we have tonight that we will be discussing, 2021-084, Charlene Brugman. I hope I say this correct. Is it 19 Riverview Drive? Welcome.
Thank you. Yes, you
Please.
did say it correctly. It's
Thank you.
Charlene Brugman, 19 Riverview Drive, Rochester, 14623.
Welcome. Please explain to us what you are doing. So I drove by last night and I see the property, but I do not fully comprehend the request that you have. So please explain this.
All right. Do you mind if I have my eldest brother come up and explain it?
I do not
He
mind at
does
all.
A lot better job than I can.
As long as you signed it.
Yeah, as long as he signed in and states his name.
Yes, he is signed in.
Wonderful. Welcome.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Jerry Trueheart.
Welcome.
I
Jerry.
live at 1591 Creek Street, Penfield, New York.
Welcome today.
Thank you.
Please explain to us what you are requesting.
Yes. My sister's lived in that home for many years. She's also semi-retired, like myself.
Yes.
Of course, I'm just a touch older. And she lives alone with her daughter and that. So the garage in itself was built, the whole home was built by our uncle, the one that owned True Heart Rugs. Okay, back in in the 40s. All right.
A fair amount of time ago.
Yeah, a long time ago. And they did not have concrete block. It was cinder block. Cinder block is nowhere near as stable as concrete block. Never has been, never will be. I don't even make it anymore. Any rate, Sis had me come over and take a look at it. And the wall towards 1591 or 15 Riverview Drive, which is our
Which
brother.
is closer to the fire department, correct?
Yes, yes.
Thank you.
Was the top of it had slid out this far. You know, like so. Due to water getting in, freezing,
time,
whatever. The roof had started to come down a little bit, which pulled the whole house roof, was starting to pull it and causing leaks in the main portion of the house besides in the garage. So I told Sis, I says, if we don't do something, that wall will give way, which is a hazard just for anybody, you know. And if that be the case, that roof's going to come down and it'll pull a whole roof on the house. Now, how much damage it would do to the house, I don't know. But looking at what was damage done there, I would assume it would destroy the house. So my brother, both our brothers, her brother, three of her brothers, there's three of us. One's in Texas, but at any rate, we jacked it up, supported the roof line so it wouldn't tear away. As soon as we did that, God struck me dead. I'm standing there, I put my hand against that brick wall or cinder brick wall, which is probably, what, 30 feet down through there? I pushed like this and the whole wall went out.
Wow.
So it was close.
There was nothing there that had hurt. But had somebody been standing there, it wouldn't have been a good deal. Or at some point in time, if it just would have given way. At that point in time, we had to do something because you just can't have a chunk of roof hanging out there. We supported it. We built, I'm an old contractor, about 55 years worth. We put down pressure treated. I wrote it up. I believe you all have a copy of it. It's built 16 inches on center. We did not rebuild the garage. My sister could not afford it. So we built a portion there to square that off. And we then had to repair the roof on that, plus the existing roof on the house because it had just pulled it, it had done damage to it. Do you have any questions? I'll gladly answer anything you ask.
Well, just safety, is the rest of the house secure right now?
I'm sorry, sir?
Is the rest of the house secure as we sit today?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, it is.
Is the whole house made out of cinder block or just the garage portion was, or the whole house?
Oh, the whole house is.
The whole house, we have to keep
But
an
you
eye
have-
on that. to
Yes,
make
sir.
sure it
And
doesn't-
inside the house is cinder block.
Really? Okay, so,
That's what was my concern was with the pulling of the roof. If it were to pull, it may take and pull the whole house over.
So the way it sits today, and when I was sitting at the end of the driveway yesterday, I guess I would call it the back of the garage, what would have been the back of the garage is still
Yes, sir.
there, and
Yeah.
or some
Well,
form
no,
of it.
No.
There's a door there that looks like maybe a French door or some version of a French door.
Yes, we just put that. As a matter of fact, it was given to me by a friend of mine. I
Perfect.
gave it to my sister to put in there.
And obviously there's still parking in that driveway. How many other houses right around you, in your opinion, don't have garages? Because you are in a little bit of a unique spot with
Yeah,
regards to that.
There's approximately 10 that I counted without garages. And there's approximately 60 houses in my neighborhood.
So a high percentage do not.
Now, you stated that right now financially, it's not something that you would do like to fix it, but are you looking to put in a garage at some point down the road or?
I am actually on Social Security and I work part-time to supplement my income.
Okay.
So if I don't really foresee it being something I can feasibly do.
Right, okay, understandable.
Are there any other questions from members or from the board? No. Any questions from members of the audience in person or online, Heather?
Oh, I do have one more question. So prior to the garage failing, per se, was anything stored in there?
Great question.
Just odds and ends of stuff. I used it to store cans of food, things like that.
How about lawnmowers and things of that nature? What do you do for that?
I don't own a lawnmower. My brother mows my lawn for me.
That's a pretty good plan.
Yeah, it's an awesome plan.
Fair enough. So there's not a huge, I think you're getting it.
Yeah, there's not a huge need of storage for anything that would be outdoors that you would need for maintenance purposes. Okay.
And do you just have the one car that you in the driveway usually, or?
Yes.
Just, okay.
Heather, following up, was there anybody online that had questions?
Thank you.
Nothing.
Okay. Are we probably in agreement on this? Okay. With that, I'd like to close this application. And this is me. Oh, sorry. Give me 1 second. I have to look at my notes here. Okay. So with regards to application 2021-084 for an area variance, I move to approve as follows. Whereas the zoning board has duly advertised and held a public hearing, has considered all relevant information, and has considered the potential benefit to the applicant versus the potential detriment to the neighborhood or community in relation to such a variance. Now therefore be it resolved that the zoning board of appeals makes the above findings of facts. The variance will not result in an undesirable change to the character of the neighborhood or a detriment to nearby properties, as this step will beautify the house, keep it clean, and remove the deteriorated garage. The variance can be achieved by some other feasible alternatives. It could be achieved by building another garage. However, this is not the desired result for the applicant today. The variance requested is not substantial. It is a big request, but it does clean up the house and the concerns, the safety concerns. And the variance will not have a negative effect on physical or environmental conditions. There's no however, there will be no location for parking for future owners of this property. the difficulty relating to the variance was self-created, or I'm sorry, was not self-created, and it was due to deterioration. So be it further resolved that based upon the above findings, the zoning board of appeals hereby approve the variance as presented.
I'll second it.
Seconded by Mr. Chamberlain. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, the motion carries. Thank you.
so much.
Best of luck.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Good evening.
Y'all have a good day.
You as
Or
well.
good
Thank you.
evening, I should see what's getting left of it.
You're absolutely correct. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
So with that, we have two variances that we have to discuss.
Ladies and gentlemen, have a seat.
Have a
You
good
as well.
one.
Gonna close the meeting. You gotta close the meeting.
Oh, thank you.
Close the meeting first.
So I have to close the meeting. It's 8:10. We have a few discussions here. I'd like to start on Ninja Gut on 78, on number 078, I should say. What's everybody's feeling on this? I mean, I'm on the fence, but my concern is safety.
Yeah, I think it's safety too. I think that if he could bring it up a little bit higher, I think that there's a lot of wasted space on the sign as he presented it to us. And he said he was also going to be moving it around. He wasn't sure what he was going to be doing with it still. So I'd like to see a final rendering before, for certain. And I think that he could do with a smaller sign and really not lose that much visibility.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think there's ways of maybe changing up the logo and making it shorter. My concern is really that area is always, I don't like driving that area in general.
Very busy. Yeah.
It's very busy. There's a lot of in and out traffic. I do agree that he needs something there.
I do too.
But I unfortunately don't think that this is the option or the best option for him. And there's that road right there. So in that plaza, people come in and out, and then they'll be going onto that road for, both plazas. So I think it's a safety issue.
Safety issue, and I don't know exactly if, the lower it is, the more likely that it could get damaged by, another car or people walking by. You never know.
Well, it's out from my visual inspection of this this sign. It is not, if it gets damaged by a car, somebody really screwed up.
But yeah, they hit it.
Well, yeah.
This is not like right on the edge of the property the way some of them are. It's a little deeper into the
Yeah.
property than some. So and again, just my 2 cents. I do not believe that that's damage from a car is likely unless there's a massive accident.
Unless it's a truck or some sort of
But they'd have to be off a fair amount.
well, they were backing up, trying to get out of there. Perhaps you can back into it.
That's a fair
If
statement.
anybody backs up anywhere in that area, they're crazy.
Well, I'm just saying, I'm thinking the parking
He's
lot.
saying
Oh, in the
in
parking lot, from the parking lot.
The
yeah.
parking lot, if they were backing up, whatever. I mean, I'm just, I'm not saying it would happen.
It
but,
is surrounded by an island, I believe, isn't it?
It
They're
is.
Curbing there as well.
Yeah, it is in an island with
Never,
rocks and stuff around it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
never underestimate the ability for people to.
Oh, yeah. If there is an accident, somebody hits it, it's gonna take the whole sign.
It's gonna get the whole sign through, yeah.
My opinion in relation to the safety is, I don't think forcing him to change the size ultimately by a foot is going to make a difference. And I don't think it would look good aesthetically with a big sign and then a smaller sign. I think the content within the shape of the sign is his responsibility, not ours. The question is the height. From the perspective that we've seen and from driving past it, I don't think somebody that is actually entering or leaving that intersection is going to be impeded by this sign at the height that is proposed. I think it's far enough back into the parking lot that it's not going to cause an issue, because when you're pulling out, you're beyond that when you're looking left and right. And to Jesse's point, I think it's safer to have a sign that's more present so that you have an awareness when you're looking for this destination.
Yeah, so I agree with Tim 100%, not everything he said in the assessment. When I drove through it, my experience was a little bit different than the chairman's. I didn't have any issue with visibility. I was in an SUV, maybe that's a differentiating factor. I also, when I look at the findings of fact, when I think about feasible alternatives, because a couple of you mentioned, accurately that, he could look into alternatives. I don't see any feasible alternatives given this location. So from that finding of fact, I find this to be a reasonable ask that I think we should approve.
I think that one of that Christian had mentioned, he could do just the Ninja Gut and make it you know, he stated that he really wanted the, you know, the 4 feet, but you can still make it shorter in the length and it still would look aesthetically pleasing. And it would still get the point across of, hey, here's Ninja Got, turn in. It's still gonna be pretty visible.
I mean, I see the logic behind that. However, I also think to the point that Tim made, you know, I think we're putting an undue burden on his business in that situation because we're putting, you know, I think it makes sense to mirror the same size signs. I think that really does put an undue burden on the marketing. And I've seen research about 4-foot signs. I just respectfully disagree. I think this is appropriate.
We might be helping as a business a little bit too, because if the smaller sign is cheaper, he would be saving money in that case.
Right.
And I don't think he would lose any flyer on here, wouldn't lose any visibility based on what he was presenting for. There's a lot of wasted space on that sign. I'm not saying that it has to be too crowded, but I think that there's definitely a way to make everything he wants with a sign that's a little bit smaller, a little bit taller off the ground. That's my thought, but I mean.
Could it be wider,
No,
proportionately wider? I just.
Doesn't make sense from a marketing
No.
standpoint.
Yeah, it would, I mean, yeah, obviously it could be an
I'm
option.
still on the
but-
fence, so I mean, what's the straw poll right now?
I'm for it.
I'm for it.
I'm not.
For it? 3?
Are you for it for the 8-foot, Heather?
I'm definitely for it at 8 foot, but I mean,
Yeah,
we're
I-
asking for 6 inches.
I don't think that's in
9
the
inches.
grand scheme of the angles that we're seeing. I don't think there's any significance to
All right.
making
I
that
think we're
change.
dickering over the
Yeah.
details at
Yeah,
that
I
point.
think
I
so.
think I'll switch over to this. 1, 2, 3, we have 4.
And ultimately, the last picture in the application shows, if you would imagine a sign
Mhm.
below Tyler Creations, there's still lots and lots of room. In fact, you can even see the street signs that are,
Yes.
That perspective is wrong. The street signs are ahead of it.
right, but that's the scale at which you would either see a car leaving, or if you were a car leaving, that you would be looking from.
I think with regards to that comment, to my opinion on that is that I think that's a little skewed. You're going downhill from that intersection he's standing at towards the bridge. And I think the way that looks, I think is a little odd, perspective wise.
Fair, so that if you go third picture up from the bottom where you're in the parking lot
2, 3.
and looking out, you can see the street signs,
Yep.
give you
Um,
a sense of height.
And take
Beneath-
4 feet off of that. So I still, I hear the concerns and I stand, I'll adjust, because again, I'm on the fence. And I see what we're saying, so I'm comfortable switching that. So we have the votes for that. Unless somebody changes while we're doing this. So we have the votes for that. The second one that I want to talk about while we're here is Mr. and Mrs. Moriarty. So I think, you know, we have to weigh this on the merits of the application. And I understand the concerns from the audience members and the things. And to be frank, I agree with them. I do not like the equipment in the property. It is something I talked to Mr. Moriarty about yesterday and said, this is something that I think may be a concern, and it is. And so the flip side of this, and if Eric, I do make the assumption, Eric, that we have to assess this on the needs that he's asking for, right? I mean, the
You
stuff that
do.
he's dealing with is stuff that is being addressed according to Kevin actively.
Should we wait for Kevin to return? Because I think that's.
Right, right. Kevin's going to check on something, but you should also be able to consider
How he's
whether or not.
potentially abusing it.
Right, if he's really using this for the commercial equipment that would be in violation of code, even though that's code enforcement, you can consider whether or not you think what he is asking is reasonable for the legitimate uses, or whether it's an excess of what he needs for his legitimate uses.
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate the input.
That's helpful.
Yes, so it's, right, so, but, you know, the testimonies and the pictures are worth 1,000 words, and it's, and they tell a tale, it's different than the application, with the exception that The request is for a relatively small addition to the width of the driveway for trailer and boat, which are there. I saw them there this morning. So there is a need for storage of those legitimate items.
So one of the, and I can't remember which one, but one of the people who testified in person made a observation that there is the possibility with a driveway that's not, or I'm sorry, with an addition here that's not 20 feet wide, that it's possible to remaneuver the way the trailer and the boat are stored and not have as much concern there with space and
So-
having a 12-foot wide area.
So is there currently gravel down?
It's
right
already
now?
built the
It's
way
already
that it's
built.
requested.
And it's gravel.
Okay.
So I kind of,
Yeah.
Okay.
what I'm coming back to on this one is, okay, so if I look at the application just straight up, face value, so he wants to store that RV and that boat, or,
Yes.
yeah. So, and what he's asking for in terms of an extension, to me, makes sense for the storage of those two items. Now, to me, if we approve this variance and he uses it for something that is against code enforcement will handle that.
Right.
So in my opinion, I think we should grant it based on what we're seeing in the application. The testimony, while helpful, I think the application is a little bit more factually grounded.
We need
And
to
I-
separate, like you said, we need to separate out the fact that,
Right.
I mean, if it was only just the camper and the boat, and if everything else that was using it for wasn't the case, would we approve it or not? I mean, because we have to,
And I
there's
think
two,
with the
there's two
camper and the
issues.
boat, I think the answer is probably, my gut says probably.
Yeah, I would think that there's two issues going on, and unfortunately, not that, I think, that we can't, as a board, get involved in the code enforcement issue.
Now, remember what our
It's not our
board
purview.
attorney has stated just a few minutes ago, is that we should still take into account the potential use for this as something that we can observe with our own eyes, and that there's been testimony that brought it in. So I'm not telling you to change your opinion or anything. I'm just saying, just remember that that is still a factor that we consider with the findings and things of that nature. So I-
For example,
fact
on
about
this
this.
extension in these pictures provided by the testimony today is the trailer and the boat as described, plus a dump truck.
Plus-
There is a dump truck that is parked in this extension.
Plus-
In the photos from this day.
Well, there's two different.
Plus construction material in the picture. I'm saying it as a drawing that was put, oh, you're looking at a different picture.
But the dump truck.
In
is
figure
parked on-
4.
Dump
There's
truck's parked
two.
on the grass.
Well, there's two. There's one with the dump truck on the grass, and
Oh.
then there's one with the actually in the extension where they're asking. So I think it is feasible or, viable to say that there is a potential for them to use it for.
I mean, there is certainly a potential to abuse it, but I think that's true with a lot of things that we grant.
Right, but
And
we
I do
need
think
to-
that code enforcement should take their
And,
role.
and I appreciate what Eric said. I'm hesitant of, as a zoning board member, starting to play code enforcer as
I
well.
agree. So
Can't tell.
Kevin,
Yes.
can you give us a little more color on this? Is it allowed to share this?
Is there what?
Are we allowed to hear some more color on what is happening right now? And is it safe for us to assume, and I think the answer is yes, but is it safe for us to assume that the questions that came up from the testimony from the people in the audience, this is legitimate code enforcement concerns?
Absolutely, correct. Like I said before, during the workshop, if commercial vehicles over 10,000 pounds, trailer, truck are not permitted in a residential district anywhere unless they're housed in a building. So if it goes out, code enforcement will go out and take a look, and if it's there, then, there's a letter that goes out, violation notice, and then it has to be removed from the property.
Okay, so action will be taken.
Yes, absolutely. Yep.
Independent
If
of
need
our.
be, correct, yes.
Regardless.
Okay, so just for sake of saying this to the board, and again, I know there's probably a comment that wants to be said, but we are not allowed to talk about that until we reopen the meeting in a minute. So for sake of the board, I think we have, again, we have to consider what could happen, and it's part of our consideration. We have that choice. But And I do agree with Jesse. I think we have to look at this a little at face value from my eyes.
So Kevin, I have a question for you.
Mhm.
From the pictures that were presented to us of the equipment, can you, I don't know what 10,000 pounds looks like.
Good point.
I mean, is
So,
it,
so regardless of the pictures, anything that's submitted, we have to put eyes on it.
Yep.
Right.
We have to see the violation prior to acting on it. So if our code enforcement goes out and the vehicles are not there, there's no action to be taken.
right, okay.
So this is something that we,
It's just the
again,
law.
Right, no, I get that, I understand, okay. And it's harder to tell too, because you might have something on the trailer, you might not have something on the trailer.
Is the 10,000 pound the only restriction for running a residential type operation like that? A commercial type
So he-
operation in a
You know,
residential?
he can have his business there. That's where the business can be, but he's not doing business there per se. He's storing his vehicles there. If they're
Right.
over 10,000 pounds and they're commercial, then they'll have to go.
so, okay. Does the board want to give me a straw poll here on approve or deny? Based
so-
on whatever your feelings are.
So I'm assigned this one, so I want to say this out loud. So in my mind and in our responsibility, and we've said this, is we have to separate what's being requested and how it's being used with consideration of whether or not it might be misused. There's evidence here that the request is for reasonable and approvable use, which is storage of family items. If there's abuse, I think we need to separate that and it would be researched as discussed. So in my mind, for the paperwork of the request, which is simply the addition to this wedge-shaped gravel space, I'm okay with that. I'm not okay with what's been presented to us in the way that it's being utilized in the instance of these photos and the testimonies.
Yep. So with your thoughts that were just shared, how do you lean?
Approval for the variance request.
Okay,
I ditto what Tim said. I would approve.
Heather?
Come back to me.
Yes. John?
Approval for what was submitted.
And I also agree with approval for what was submitted.
Mhm.
Beth? Okay, so we can address this and approve this, but this, and we'll still hear another piece of testimony, I believe, in a moment when I reopen this, I believe. But based on what I feel right now and what we understand now before we reopen this, this looks like this is gonna pass. It will, of course, be a code issue that will be addressed.
Yep.
Bob, would it be appropriate to put a condition in the approval of this variance or not?
Is that appropriate, do you think, to put a condition on there for?
No, I don't think it's appropriate to put anything related to code enforcement. If his neighbors witness what we have seen here in these photos, they should be contacting code enforcement. But that's a separate issue that this board does not have jurisdiction to enforce.
Yep.
Those type of, penalties and rules against.
Yep.
residents.
That makes sense.
Thank you.
So with that, I would like to, I'm sorry, before
No,
I
we're
jump ahead, everybody okay with me? Okay, with that, I would like to reopen this meeting. And again, it's 8:30 right now. Are there any more questions? Let me start out with the Ninja got one. 2021-078. John, this is yours to close. So I'd like to close this application and ask you for the.
Mr. Chairman, with regards to application 2021-078 for an area variance, I move to approve as follows. Whereas the zoning board has duly advertised and held a public hearing, has considered all relevant information, and has considered the potential benefits to the application versus the potential detriment to the neighborhood and community in relation to such variance. Now therefore be it resolved that the zoning board of appeals makes the following findings of facts. The variance will not result in an undesirable change to the characteristic of the neighborhood or dwelling. Will actually help applicant, will actually help I like what I used to be able to read. Will actually help the will actually give the applicant more visibility from the road. The variance cannot be achieved by some other feasible alternative. There is presently a pole sign there for tile creations, and the sign sits back far enough from the road. The variance requested is not substantial. Sign is needed for visibility from the road for advertising. The variance will not have a negative effect in the physical or environmental conditions. It will make the store more visible for oncoming traffic. The difficulty for the variance was not self-created, and be it further resolved that based upon the above findings, the zoning board of appeals hereby approves the variance as presented.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Redlow. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Opposed.
The motion passes. Thank you very much.
And Mr. Chairman, just so, just for the record, to say that this is,
Opposed by Christian
and Heather.
and Heather Robinson. Thank you.
Just for the other Heather to help.
I appreciate it. And I should have done that. The last one here that we would like to discuss is 2021-083. I'm going to reopen that application. I would like to ask if there's any more comments or facts from the audience, and I believe there is.
Just the tiny one. It's just.
Well, wait, till you come to the
microphone.
Say your name and address and then.
In his application,
wait.
he,
Say your name, please.
Martha Windrum, 570 Shore Drive. In his drawing, he shows that there's just this little wedge, but that's because he already earlier this summer added 10 feet. Right.
But the size of the application appears to be correct to what's there, which is what's being requested. So it's not building more than what we see today, physically.
Or it's what's there, what he's already built.
Yes, so that is out of order. I agree. It should have been done, requested and approved, then built. That
Yeah.
is out of order. We agree.
Okay.
I know that you've heard our conversations and testimony too, so it's something that we, it's a little bit of a dilemma. We understand the concern and need from your side, and I believe we also understand it from their side.
My
So
primary concern, I didn't understand that you folks don't do code enforcement,
yes,
but all these trucks in the neighborhood where,
understood. And valid conversation to have with the code enforcement. No doubt about it. We agree 100% on your
Yeah.
concern there. Because zoning board isn't code enforcement, we have a different charter. We
okay,
sort
yeah,
of-
I really didn't understand
But
that.
acceptable, and your testimony is appropriate for us to understand. And so thank you for doing that. For all of you, we appreciate that. Going back to the Moriarty's before we have anything else, is there any questions or comments you have based on our conversations today?
I think you're muted.
You're muted.
They're good.
Can you hear us?
Yes, now I hear you. It looked like, I asked that because it looked like you were going to say something.
No, I mean, I understand the code enforcement side of it. I run my own business, and starting a business is not an easy task, and
Correct.
definitely not an easy state to start a business in. It does take a little bit to acquire the money to be able to buy a commercial spot. I'm in the process of doing that, and if it would
sure we'll see code enforcement.
make the panel happy, I do have a place that I can store my stuff. It's cost me quite a bit of money to have to travel all the way out there. So some nights I've brought the stuff home. The dump truck has been in my driveway, but if it would make the panel happy and help approve this, I will not keep them there anymore.
Well,
But again, they're separate issues, right? So the
Yeah,
the
exactly.
request is for a variance for as requested boat and an RV. Is that change?
That's the only thing I plan on using it for. Yeah, so nothing else.
Okay.
Okay.
So with that, we'd like to close this application. Mr. Harrington, if you could,
Yes, Mr. Chairman, with regard to application number 2021-83 for an area variance, I move to approve as follows. Whereas the zoning board has, one, duly advertised and held a public hearing, two, has considered all relevant information, and three, has considered the potential benefit to the applicant versus the potential detriment to the neighborhood or community in relation to such variance. Now therefore be it resolved that the zoning board of appeals makes the finding followings of fact. The variance will not result in an undesirable change to the character of the neighborhood or detriment to nearby properties. Because the need for vehicle storage persists, adding more driveway area is a reasonable solution for boat and RV storage. Two, the variance cannot be achieved by some other feasible alternative because the existing boat and RV trailer exceed the garage storage capacity. The variance requested is not substantial, but the resultant final driveway width is. Four, the variance will not have a negative effect on physical or environmental conditions, and a berm plus trees will be added to enhance the look of the property, and leveling of the surface used to store boat and trailer are a positive improvement. Five, the difficulty related to the variance was self-created given the collection of vehicles. And be it further resolved that based on the above findings, the zoning board of appeals hereby approve the variance as presented.
Second.
seconded by Mr. Miglerini. Any other, or all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? So the motion does carry. And with that, I would like to close our meeting at 8:35 PM.
Thank you.
Thank you.